While all the pro Call of Duty Warzone players seem to use literally the exact same loadout, there are plenty of other loadouts that could help you rack up some dubs in solos or with your squad. Whether you're looking to copy the pros, snipe your way to victory, get yourself a balanced setup, go super aggressive, or dominate solos, I have the most savage loadout for you. Of course, I just have to kick things off by talking about the most popular loadout in the game. For this loadout, you have every pro Warzone player's favorite weapon, the Grau 5.56, as your primary. For your secondary weapon, you have the Renetti pistol. EOD, Ghost, and Amped are your perks. Your lethal is a C4, and your tactical is a heartbeat sensor. So let's take a look at the Grau, and while I'm not as good as Jack Frags is with the gun, there's a reason why it's the most popular choice. Sure, it doesn't have the fastest time to kill, but it has incredible range, easy to control recoil, and crystal clear iron sights. The attachments I would recommend for the weapon are the monolithic suppressor and the Tempest 26.4-inch Archangel barrel to maximize the already excellent range of the weapon. I'll also put a Commando foregrip on there to help with side-to-side recoil. The 60-round mags and the Cronin Sniper Elite Rear Grip or Tac Light. I honestly prefer the Cronin Sniper Elite Rear Grip because I just hate lasers. But if you're fine with your laser being visible to the enemy, then by all means, put a tac laser on that Grau and get that extra aim down sight speed bonus that the Cronin Sniper Elite doesn't have. For a secondary weapon, I went full the Korean Savage and put the Renettis on there with the monolithic suppressor, the MK3 burst mod, the lightweight trigger, the 21-round mags, and the 1 milliwatt laser. But it's really up to you. Even an RPG or Deagle would do. The Renettis are still good post-nerf as long as you make sure you're not using the MK3 burst mod and Akimbo at the same time. For the perks, EOD, Ghost, and Amped is, in my opinion, the best trio you could go with. You won't get one shot by explosives with EOD, so those annoying C4s, Claymores, proximity mines, and RPGs won't bother you. With Ghost, you not only stay off the UAV, but you can't be detected on heartbeat sensors, making it easy to get the jump on unsuspecting players. Amped gives you faster weapon swapping, so if you get a second loadout later and roll with two primaries, you can switch between them almost instantly. Your lethal with this class is a C4 because they're just so versatile. They're not very good at taking out other players, but you could easily destroy vehicles with them and even stick them onto recon drones if you're feeling adventurous. For your tactical, the heartbeat sensor is an easy choice since it'll let you know which enemies are in your vicinity, if they're not using Ghost, that is. Overall, this is arguably the best loadout in all of Warzone, but it doesn't mean it's the only one. If your playstyle is more akin to a sniper and you like to keep your engagements at longer ranges, then I sure have a savage loadout for you. For your primary, I have the HDR with the MP5 as your secondary. For perks, I have Cold-Blooded, Overkill, and Amped. Your lethal is a Claymore, and your tactical could be either a smoke grenade or a heartbeat sensor. I'll admit that I'm not the greatest sniper, so whose Immortals kills have gotten me beyond jealous. But I did find a setup that at least makes it easy for me to hit some long-range headshots. I'd recommend using the lightweight suppressor, the 26.9-inch HDR Pro barrel, the Tac Light, the F-Tac stock or Scout stock to help with aim down sight speed, and either a thermal optic or 9-round mags. If you're wondering why I, as well as many pro players, prefer the HDR over the AX50, well, it's because of a few things. While the AX50 is a very good sniper in its own right and has a faster rate of fire than the HDR, it doesn't have the bullet velocity of the HDR with a 26.9-inch HDR Pro barrel. What this means is that you have to lead targets at longer ranges and shoot slightly above their head to compensate for the bullet drop of the AX50. The HDR has no such issues. It's pretty much a hit scan within 300 meters, making it so much easier to use. I do prefer the AX50 in multiplayer though, just not in Warzone. As for your secondary, the MP5 is an easy choice, and I'm sure Benny Central would agree. I use the weapon with the monolithic integral suppressor, the Merc foregrip, the 45-round mags, sleight of hand, and the granulated grip, tape, or tac laser, whatever you prefer. The monolithic integral suppressor gives you more range than the monolithic suppressor muzzle attachment, so it's definitely the way to go. This gun absolutely shreds at close range, which is your weakness as a sniper. So all your bases are covered. For perks, I decided to go with Cold-Blooded for a sniper setup since it'll make it harder for you to get counter-sniped by thermal snipers. Of course, to get the MP5 as your secondary, you have to use Overkill as your perk too. As for Amped, you're going to see it in all of my recommended loadouts because it's just so dang good in Warzone. I decided to go with the Claymore for your lethal because if you're a sniper, you're going to want to defend your sniper's nest. Simple as that. For your tactical, if you decided to use a thermal scope, then a smoke grenade is a great choice. If not, just go with the old trusty heartbeat sensor. Now let's talk about one of the most balanced loadouts in the game. Typically, the most balanced loadouts include an assault rifle and a sniper. And would you look at that, that's exactly the two weapons that make up this loadout. For your primary, I went with the trusty M4A1, and your secondary is the HDR we just talked about. For perks, I have EOD, Overkill, and Amped with a proximity mine or C4 as your lethal, and a stim or heartbeat sensor as your tactical. As Stotus shows us, the M4 is a solid choice in Warzone. I prefer to use my M4 with a monolithic suppressor, the stock M16 Grenadier barrel and Ranger foregrip, the 60-round mags, and the tac laser. With this setup, you maximize the M4's range, and the recoil is very controllable with the Ranger foregrip. The only issue with this setup is the aim-down sight speed, which is why I recommend the tac laser as opposed to the granulated grip tape. For the secondary weapon, just like Stone Mountain plays, I would go with the HDR. I'd even use the exact same setup as the sniper class I talked about before, so the lightweight suppressor, the 26.9-inch HDR Pro, the tac light, the FTAC Stalker Scout, and a thermal scope or 9-round mags. You could use your M4 for close to mid-range engagements and your HDR at long range, forming a lethal combination. For perks, EOD is just so good at keeping you alive, so it's a great choice. Again, you're forced to use Overkill to run two primary weapons, and Amped is, well, amped. Switching to and from a sniper usually takes an eternity, but not with Amped, baby. For lethals, I recommend the proximity mine on this class, but you could also use a C4. If you get a proximity mine, even if you don't want to keep it, make sure to place it somewhere that it'll get a whole lot of action, like the entrance to a building or the middle of a street. You could get so many random kills by plopping down proximity mines. It's crazy. Even though the heartbeat sensor is usually the way to go, I recommend the stim as a tactical for this loadout. If you already have a heartbeat sensor on your squad, you could carry some stims instead, which could come in handy when the endgame rolls around. If you're in the final circle and nobody's fighting, you could just stay in the gas, stim up when you're about to die, and outlive your opponents. It might be a little cheeky, but trust me, it works. I'm even gonna give really aggressive players who are constantly full sending some love in this video by designing a class specifically for them. For your primary weapon, I suggest the Ram 7 with the MP5 as your secondary. For perks, you have Double Time, Overkill, and Amped with C4 as your lethal and stun grenades as your tactical. The Ram 7 is my choice, and it's also Iceman Isaac's favorite because it has the highest time to kill out of all the automatic 5.56 ammo assault rifles. Yep, it even has the M4 slightly beat, but it does have a bit worse range. I use my Ram 7 with the monolithic suppressor, the FSS Ranger barrel, the Commando foregrip, the 50-round mags, and the granulated grip tape or tac laser. It is laser accurate for the first 10 bullets, so don't underestimate the gun at long range either. For a secondary, I recommend the MP5, and not just because Vicstar123 is an absolute savage with the weapon. I'd use the exact same attachments that I mentioned earlier, so the monolithic integral suppressor, the Merc foregrip, the 45-round mags, sleight of hand, and the granulated grip tape or tac laser. It's the best close-range SMG in the game, even beating out the MP7, which we'll get into later. For perks, Double Time is great since it gives you a very long sprint and quick crouch walking speed so you could quickly move in on your opponents. Overkill is necessary for this class, and Amped is my go-to perk. For your lethal, I recommend C4s again because they're just so versatile. For your tactical, I'd go with stun grenades because these bows are just so dang OP. You throw them at somebody and they can't move for the next 3 to 4 hours. It's ridiculous. Rushing in with stun grenades is just too easy, making them perfect for this loadout. Lastly, let's talk about my favorite setup for a good old game of solos. For this setup, we'll actually be using an SMG launcher combination, which sounds a bit crazy on the surface, but it works really well. For your preliminary weapon, I'd go with the MP7 and the RPG as your secondary. For perks, I recommend the trusty EOD, Ghost, and Amped combination with C4s as your lethal and a heartbeat sensor as your tactical. Jack Frags absolutely dominate solos with this class, and I've won a game or two myself using the MP7 as my primary weapon. I prefer to use it with the monolithic suppressor, the FSS recon barrel, the commando foregrip, the 60-round mags, and the granulated grip tape or tack laser. The reason why I prefer the MP7 over the MP5 as solos is because the gun is more consistent at medium and long range. The MP7 pretty much only kicks vertically, which makes it easier to control than the MP5 and its more horizontal recoil. Plus, the MP7 has a faster rate of fire and a faster reload. You could even put a 60-round mag on it while the MP5 maxes out at 45 rounds. Sure, the MP5 has a better time to kill, but the MP7 is easier to use and I'm more accurate with it, so I think it's great for solos. As you can see from item plays, the RPG is very useful for clearing out rooms and taking out campers. While there are less campers now in solos, they're like cockroaches. You just can't get rid of them. So if you find a ghost camper sitting in the corner, you could introduce him to good old Mr. RPG and teach him a lesson. For the perks, EOD, Ghost, and Amped are as good as they come in solos, and so are C4s and Heartbeat Sensor. You can C4 vehicles that are looking to run you over and find the few opponents who aren't using Ghost through the Heartbeat Sensor. And those are the most savage Call of Duty Warzone loadouts I could think of. I personally love rolling with the Grau and an RPG, but what's your favorite Warzone loadout? Let me know in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more gaming videos. Thanks a lot for watching.